Hi, I'm Anthony Ottawes, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create content packs for Simple Sci-Fi Flex 2. We call content packs D-packs in Simple Sci-Fi Flex 2, and you can make them either for yourself or to sell on marketplaces for anybody who wants to create extreme detail and scale projects in Blender. First, let's make sure that we've got all of our definitions straight. We know what we're talking about. Simple Sci-Fi Flex is an add-on for Blender. It started as a replacement to JS Displacement, and I'm going to do another video on how those match up. So what is a D-pack? It's really nothing more than a collection. So we have a collection, and the collection is going to need some specific naming for its purpose, and there's some ways that we're going to format it in order to take the most advantage out of Simple Sci-Fi Flex. When it comes down to it, it's just a collection. And a D-pack can have two collections in it, at least a D-pack for Sci-Fi Flex. Two collections, one for top and one for bottom. So if we look at this generator here, and we go to the properties, I'm just gonna hit a plane. I'm gonna say apply generator to faces, and you can see that we've got a bottom collection and a top collection. Now you'll notice that I've only loaded a top collection from the D-pack. That's okay. That's because this D-pack only has a top collection. I can just work with the top collection, or I can load in a bottom collection from wherever. What's cool is that you can mix and match these. So if I want to have industrial pipes from one D-pack and then the Cyberpunk City stuff from another D-pack, that's fine. You can mix and match top and bottom. But we've got collections, and the collections are going to have this top prefix or bottom prefix. That's the basics of what it is. So now that you know what it is, let's talk about how to get these created. First thing we want to do is choose a collection type. If you just want to do geometry, actual 3D geometry like we have here, all right, you can see what the geo collection type is. That's our first kind, and that's what we supported in the version 1. The next type of D-pack is going to be texture. Right now, the main one that we've got for texture is dots, and you can see what we've got here for dots. These are meant to be emissive. They do crazy textures on, especially for emissive stuff, create some neat light patterns and things like that. Well, we're not getting really into that, but look, these things are flat, and they're meant to be seen from top down. And we're not going to create, these are not meant to be geometry. These are for creating square textures that you're going to apply in your shader materials. So that's the second type, is the texture type. And then the third type is going to be for displacement. Now, displacement is going to have the same setup, and that's why all this stuff still looks the same. We'll say reset scene. Displacement is primarily to get this displacement map. They're going to be this grayscale looking stuff. Everywhere that is white is going to come up in the displacement map, and everything that's darker than a certain tone of gray is going to be an indent or a recession in that displacement map. You can set things up in your displacement maps in a way that you know is going to work for your eventual outcome. And this stuff is really powerful. Chip has a series of other videos on how to use these displacement maps to great effect, and we'll leave that for another time. Just keeping in mind that the displacement, what you're looking to do is you can have 2D or 3D shapes, but we're going to take a look at them from the top down. Okay, so you can see how even though we're doing it top down and we're ultimately rendering a map, that they have some depth to them. Right? They're not just flat. So you can do ramps and all kinds of stuff on this displacement, and what it's going to do is it's going to take the height differences of your 3D objects and turn it into a displacement thing. So what I'm trying to impress here is that there is a depth that is going to make a difference on using displacement maps. So now let's actually talk about creating that collection. There's a few simple rules to remember. When you're creating the geometry, we don't want to have separate objects. Notice that even these complex objects can have all kinds of little parts and stuff, but as long as it's all one object, they're joined, then you're good to go. They can have materials in it. The material is going to get lost when you apply it because it's going to apply one material over all of it. However, what you can do is set these vertex colors. I have an add-on that does vertex colors easily. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to it. But the vertex colors can be used in order to impact the material. So this is how you get some variation in your look and feel for the objects once they're applied across, once they're applied in all in one material. So see what happens is this is all one object because it's using GeoNodes. If you don't have the different vertex colors, you can see this pattern on this building here with the black and purple and gray. If you don't have that set up with the vertex colors, then everything's going to be the same color. See, that's this building right here. So it is recommended if you want some variation to show the distinct colors in your final product, then you apply these vertex colors to your objects, and we're doing the Geo DPack right now. So you make sure each one of these is a single object. If they're not a single object, then they're going to end up getting split out when they're applied by the generator. And then all you're going to do is you're going to create it as a collection. So you'll come in here, you'll say im, new collection. And you'll either call it top dash whatever or bot for bottom dash whatever. It's that simple. From that point, once they're in a collection, you can use them in SciFi Flex. You don't have to do anything else. Once you have your collection created, you can point to it in these generators. So you can say apply generator faces, and then once you have it, this is something I want everybody to keep in mind, is it because it's really easy to use this stuff. Once you have it, you can just select it here in your collection. You don't have to save it out to a separate file or anything. When it comes to the texture and displacement, we have a little bit different concept. And you can see that we've got P and NP. And P is for proportional and NP is for non-proportional. Proportional is going to be something that you don't want scaled in width different than the height. It's that simple. So for your proportional, you're going to keep the underscore P in your name, and for non-proportional, you can have underscore NP. And these are just guidelines. That just means that when we go to the texture scene, it's going to put the P into the P collection, NP into NP collection, and when they are scaled, one can be scaled proportionally, one can be scaled non-proportionally. So if you care about that, then you go ahead and name them appropriately. You can always change which ones are which later if you want to. And then for displacement, we have the same thing. We have P and NP, and the difference in the objects you're going to put in displacement are that, keep in mind, you want to have things that have some depth to it, because that's really what we're doing here, is creating that depth. Now that depth can automatically happen from layers of different objects, or I'm going to go ahead and reset this. You can have things like, then something like this is going to end up having that depth. So if I want to do a bunch of objects like this with some depth, this depth is going to translate. This is going to look like a gradient in your displacement map, and that's going to translate into depth in your displacement map. So that's it for creating the different objects in SciFi Flex for DPacks. But now we can continue on in order to do all the special things to make sure that they're going to load up properly if you save them as your in your own DPack library, or you're going to sell them on a marketplace. So now we're getting into naming the collection. And whatever you're going to name this collection, you're going to carry that name through several things. It's going to be the name of the file, the name of the thumbnail, the name of the material. And this just helps everything understand what's all associated with that DPack. So we're going to go to Geo here, and you can see what I've got one called gen-cyberpunk_city. And you can see here I've got one called gen-cyberpunk_city. So whatever you're naming your DPack, you're going to name it, keep the name the same throughout all these processes. And that's also going to be the name of your collection. So name your collection and keep that in mind. You're going to be repeating that name through several things. Your file is going to be the same name as your collection. That's all you need to keep in mind for Geo. However, if you're going to do a texture DPack, then you're going to prefix it with TEX dash, and a displacement DPack is going to have DIS dash. These TEX and DIS are going to be used in the folder and file name, but will not show up as your DPack name and is not going to impact your collection name. So this is just for the files. This is just used for filtering when it comes to if I'm in displacement mode, if it just shows it the displacement ones, or if we uncheck this filter, if it's going to show all of them. Next, you need to create a thumbnail. The thumbnail is going to be square. It can be 512 by 512, 1024 by 1024. As long as it's square, it's going to show up here. We like to put the name in the thumbnail. It helps it to be seen. It's a little easier to see than the text underneath. It's going to have the same exact name as your blend file. So if you have awesome.blend is going to contain the DPack collection for your actual objects, then you'll have the awesome.png for your thumbnail. And it's going to show up here, and it's going to look much cooler than the people who didn't create a thumbnail, and we will give them the custom DPack thumbnail that makes it a little harder to decide what you're going to choose. All right, lastly, we want to create a material. This is really simple. If we've got a DPack called Gin Cyberpunk City as the name of the DPack, then what we want to do is have a material called the same exact thing. This is how the add-on knows to what material to pick. So you can see I've got a material here, has the same exact name as the DPack. Right, so where's that one, Gin Cyberpunk City? By the way, this Cyberpunk City one is by Brunya. You can find it on Blender Market. I'll also leave a link in the description. It's very cool, lots of detail in it. Let's zoom in over here. And if I didn't have that material loaded, then it would be difficult for me to have all of this cool detail that is intended to be with it. Right? That's a big part of this DPack. So let me go ahead and delete this. So kind of cool. Right? If I switch over to the rendering mode instead of material, I don't have any lights for you to really see it. But it's this is the default material for Sci-Fi Flex, and it might not match whatever theme that you created or that you downloaded for that was intended to be with that. So when you are on the Blender Marketplace and you see something, you see it rendered a certain way, you want your stuff to look like that. And you can tell right here, you can see this thumbnail. That's a very cool color scheme that was created for this, but that didn't come across when we applied the generator map, and that's because it needs that material that is the same name as the DPack. Once that's there, then let's show the difference. All right, we'll delete that and look at this one. We'll say and you can see it automatically comes in and replaces that default material. This is the results you want for people either using your DPack or even you yourself. You want to keep that material that has the look for your DPack. Now, this does apply to the textures and displacement as well. It's just for when it comes to the Geo one, we have a little more variation in what that material is going to look like for everything. All right, that's it for this video. We didn't get into anything crazy, not much. I just want people to be successful in their use of Simple Sci-Fi Flex, as well as being able to make cool things for other people to use in Simple Sci-Fi Flex. There's already a great marketplace out there for it. Add your stuff out there. Ask for advice on Discord. We're happy to review your things, help promote your DPacks that you're trying to sell, and let's all make some cool stuff together. I'll see you online.